Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the protests at this time and of course the fact that the government has of course assured that they do allow peaceful protest, but they are also responsible for maintaining law and order. Of course, the imposition of Section 114, its own ramifications overall, the disruption it means for of course everyday life and traffic, everyday of course emergencies, all of that. Today we'll be talking about the ramifications of this call of protests which we've seen in the recent time. We'll also be talking about overall as far as the economic situation is concerned with regard to that and its impact on a country and its everyday business as it's run, and how important it is, of course, peaceful assembly, all of that today on Perspective. I have with me Faraz Ali Khan, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Iftikhar Ahmed, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us. And Zahid Gishkori, who's also a senior journalist. Thank you for being with us. Ali Rashid, who is a spokesperson in the government of leader PPP. Thank you for joining us. Faraz, like I said, of course, we've seen the imposition of Section 114 and the government, of course, is maintaining law and order at this time. How do you see the situation at this time, particularly?
Well, Mahrukh, thank you for having me on the show. First of all, Mahrukh, the government has been handling the protest quite well. Or should I put it, the bureaucracy and the machinery, the government machinery has been handling them very well. We've seen a constant protest since last 2.5, 3 years now. There have been people have been on road, and the government and the machinery has been doing their job well. But I think there's no question about it. It's not the only solution. The politics of protest needs to end. It has to come down.
I think let me go with that to Iftikhar Ahmed Sabji. Iftikhar Sab, can you hear me?
You.
Iftikhar Sab, the Faraz Sab here said, and I think it's important, he said that the politics of protests have to end. Do you agree with this statement? Do you think protest is an essential milestone, essential part of politics today? Is it being used in the right manner? Is it being used as a weapon where it necessarily doesn't have to be? How do you look at this? Because our style of politics also recently, in the last 10 years or so, has changed.
Everybody has a right to protest within the constitutional and legal limits, and I believe in it. And if somebody is violating those, then he should be punished.
That's a very, that's a broad-based statement. It's also an accurate statement, and I think, every democratic, principles of democracy also dictate that. But in the recent history, the way that we've seen, protests being structured, we've also seen the events of May 9th. We've also seen, protests become volatile, protests being used, unfortunately, not always, the way that they should be used. How would you comment on that?
What have you done about the 9th May? You have not been able to prosecute them properly. And they have been playing now. The government must prosecute them properly. They must put the cases before the people that they were violating the law. They have not been able to do so.
Okay. No, I understand.
So that is the weakness. And the right of protest, you can't change it. 144, always there since 1898, something 1898, since when the British were here. It is being used to stop the people not to come and protest against those people. But 144, if you put it everywhere, anytime, all the time, it doesn't look nice. It means there is something wrong. And the government has not been able to handle this situation properly. The people are asking that why you allow one group of the people to come to the Islamabad and chat there for not many days. Where was this 144 at that time?
You're saying that it can't be used unilaterally, it can't be used, to favor one particular group over another. It should be, across the board, the right to protest.
Definitely. Definitely.
Right.
The government has,
But
to
what
prove,
about,
prove that they are not biased.
but Iftikhar Sahib, what about when it starts, when it comes to visits? For example, we've seen premiers of countries and their visits being stalled because protests have been happening. We've seen, thousands stranded in one part of the city because protests have been happening. So, we are, and so it's not necessarily to prevent that business of the country, not taking a back seat over, the kind of volatile protests that can happen. The government invariably does have to step in. Where does the line stop then? And where does the balance come?
You're asking me this question?
Gigi.
So they have to manage it, na? They must learn from the other countries. They allow the protest within the time frame that you can go on the road from 8 to 4 p.m. and that's all. And after 4 p.m. there will be no rally. You will not be allowed to be on the roadside. Certain areas are marked for that purpose. But here there is all confusion. You start the day by putting the trawlers, by blocking the road yourself.
Right,
This is not the way.
I want to go and ask Ali this. Ali, can you hear me? Ji, Ali, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Ali, there's, I don't know if you've been hearing what Iftikhar Sahib is saying, but he's been saying that, there is a confusion, there's not this imposition of Section 144 is not necessarily the solution, and that, the right to protest is ingrained, and why doesn't the government allow that? How would you respond to that?
Okay, I feel that there should be always room for peaceful protests, and absolutely, but I think even if the government is stopping these people from protesting, it's like doing them a favor, because every time PTI has actually come out to protest, it has like messed things up. It's been out of control, and they've ended up in trouble. Not wanting to get in trouble, but somewhere just keeps going wrong. And I do understand that this is a practice which they've been doing since the speaker before me was saying that the government's been dealing with it for the past 2-3 years. No, actually, we've been dealing with these people since 2014-15 when they started the dharna culture and when they used to. And when you talk about these kind of protests happening internationally, they are actually made, there are areas where you can go and you can protest and document your, register your protests. Here, I don't understand that they actually identify, like in Karachi, if I speak about my city where I'm from, they've actually identified points where the main traffic is flowing and they want to protest exactly there. So the entire system, is disturbed. If you want to make a point and do a peaceful protest, understood, do it. But if you just want to do it for the nuisance value, to create problems for people, create problem for the government, create problems for the country, then I think that should be discouraged. And if anything, I'm not saying in favor or against the government imposing Section 144, but it could be a blessing in disguise for PTI, because whenever they get a free hand to protest, to do something, they just go out of control and they go overboard and then they end up in trouble.
You're saying you're doing them a favor?
Yeah, the blessing in disguise.
Fair enough. Ji, Zahid Sahib, the question is that are these protests, engineered to derail the system? Or, is it about peaceful assembly? Those are the questions, right? Because, of course, like Ali is saying and Iftikhar Sahib also said, there is, peaceful right to peaceful assembly. There's no two opinions that, the government allows it, and it is, something that is the right of every citizen. But where does, we have not too long ago seen what happened on May 9th, and we have those kind of incidents Pakistan cannot afford and will not afford, and I don't think the government, the writ of the government, the writ of the state can allow it and or will allow it? How do you see it then?
Mahrukh, thank you very much. We have been watching this protest and sort of politics linked to Dharna every time since 2014, and particularly the momentum and generated by PTI and putting people into the streets. That's a good thing. Peaceful protest obviously is every citizen right, but it doesn't matter that you are creating problem, hurdles for hundreds and thousands of commuters. Particularly, I'm focusing on twin cities, Rawalpindi and Islamabad, where people are facing problem. Before this, last week, the retail back Pakistan created mess. 500,000 people daily commuted from Islamabad to Rawalpindi and Rawalpindi to Islamabad, and they stopped all the main roads. So we did not know even that what was their real demand they put before the government. They were talking about Palestine, Israel, and whatever it is, but they were not clear in their demand. And now this protest is quite different. I see in a different way because the momentum and people are angry with the government on particularly two important issues. The number one, uh, the tsunami of taxes leaked by the government in the budget, particularly a burden on salary class, number one. Secondly, electricity bills. And they want review in IPP's agreement with the government. So a couple of demands by the protesters, particularly by Jamaat Islami, now trying to mobilize their workers across the country. They now choked up the capital and other major cities. So this time is a quite momentum I can see, which could pile up pressure on the government to think about the people and masses, what exactly they want for. But from the other side, PTI, after 9th May, Pakistan had been totally changed in terms of politics, and it's not done and dusted. It's still a message. 9th May is not a history. Obviously, it's in a judicial process. It's the party costs so much on it, and there are so many things to discuss. But protest in politics, obviously every party has been doing this, but Jamaat Islami, it's a good chance for the party which lost its momentum, mandate, and everything in the parliament. They are even no longer in the parliament, in the setup. So it's a good thing for them, but we don't know that either they would be able to pile up pressure on the government, either the hundreds and thousands of people would be able to gather it here in the capital. But in Islamabad today, at least, they were not able to generate so much, hundreds and thousands of people they were claiming, but their momentum could come maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. But all routes were closed today. The messes were, and now the other thing is the media is also giving absolutely good coverage. Maybe it could be a spark for them, and the Jamaat Islami workers and PTI and other political parties who are sitting on the opposition benches could join their hand. Then the momentum could come. But I don't know. I see this is not a protest. It's sort of a dharna again at D Chowk, and Jamaat Islami has been doing this, and they more than 40 days for less than. One of their former senators also in the middle of D Chowk stopped all roads, and they have been protesting this. And the two precious lives were also gone during the protest. But Mahrukh, one thing is important, the government, at least I think the government, it's an opportunity for the government as well, at least engage opposition political parties on important issues, particularly the IPPs.
So that is the important thing, right? We talk about engaging the opposition. and invariably where the onus falls. I'll go to Ali with that after Faraz here. Faraz, where does the onus then fall? Because we talk about this politics of agitation, we talk about this politics of protesting, and it's not just now, it's been for a number of years, we are saying. There's a system that starts, and then there is this protests. How much of protesting? I mean, nobody here is against the right to peaceful assembly. Nobody here is against the democratic principles that are enshrined in the constitutions, in our own legislative framework overall. But where does the buck stop? Are those not important questions, and how much of it can our country afford?
Definitely, Mahrukh. First of all, there are two types of protests. We need to make this clear. We link every protest with 9th of May. The 9th of May protest had a different motive behind it.
Okay.
There was this leader who got caught up, right or wrong, that is something different debate. But if there is a genuine protest, the protest that Jamaat-e-Islami is doing right now, or the protesters that they came, TLP came, they had genuine concerns. Inflation is so high and the taxes are there's so many things. I think this is an opportunity for the government to listen to them. Let them come in, let them sit, let them show their power. If that is an organic protest and the people are supporting it, the government will have an opportunity to talk to the people, and that might just help to calm down their anger. And if this is not organic protest or something that is not from the people of Pakistan, it would fade away itself. Like we saw when there was a nomination for the army chief, Khan Saab was leading a protest, and it just faded away because it was unorganic and people did not support it. And we've seen in past there were so many protests with Khan Saab that were very successful as well. So anything that is unorganic, that is not there, it will fade away, and it eventually will strengthen the government stance. Right now, when you put up containers and you try to stop them, it just gives them more publicity and more media time.
Ali,
let's say this handful of people who came over here, like the fellow panelist said, there were very few protesters. When we put up so many containers and we gave them such a big media hype, that small issue, the few handful of people became so evident. Let's say if there was no container and we would have let them walk in, they would have faded away themselves.
Ali, isn't that true? I mean, by putting up containers, by stopping these protesters, is it not leading to more, in fact, chaos than perhaps, if the number really is that small, you're also saying, and overall, that seems to be the opinion, then why don't, let them go ahead and do their peaceful assembly, and then, like Faraz has said, if it's that unorganic or it's, so it will, of course, invariably not be successful. There's no denying that, right?
Yeah, I guess, but I guess, they say once bitten, twice shy. Once we've tried and tested and we've seen the kind of things, May 9th, and we are kind of seeing a similar, after the court verdict and, PTI getting the seats and everything, we are the same kind of reaction, the same kind of morale, the same kind of statements are coming from these parties. And it's very concerning. And I think a lot of political parties have highlighted this also, that look, I think we're going down that same road again, where your political workers are getting very supercharged in a negative way. And so are their leaders. So I think it is all in good faith to avoid any mishap. We don't want the country to go towards, we are in a very sensitive time frame right now. The IMF deal is coming through. A lot of things are happening right now. So I feel if...
Let me interject. Don't you think that there is, there are real issues at this time? And, perhaps, there is concern. And when we talk about inflation, for example, or we talk about, there's a lot of power tariff and, that and the electricity bills being an issue. So, in that sense, there are numerous issues, and for people to put it out there and to protest or, register their protest with the government, whether they can do anything about it, or not.
It's basically venting out, basically.
Of course, that's another issue. Whether the government's hands itself are tied also, they have the IMF agreement, there are a host of other issues. But letting them come out and register that protest is perhaps, the right course, isn't that?
Perhaps. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe I think, the way the government, we're not in the government, we don't really make the decision. But from the government's perspective, I think they feel that at such a time, they don't want to take any risks. At such a time, they just want things to go smoothly. They don't want any unrest. They don't want things leading for the better good of the country. They don't want these political parties protesting to get carried away again, because as I said earlier, it's a very sensitive time for us, with the IMF deal going through, with a few other investments coming, and everything. So I think they thought it would be better, and also seeing the morale of PTI and these parties after getting the seats, the kind of reaction we're getting, and the kind of statements we're getting from the leaders, which is kind of it is like it can incite political workers to get carried away with their protests. So I think maybe that's the reason. But I do agree with you. I do understand your point of view.
Right. Overall, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that, Zahid Sahab, what essentially Ali seems to be saying is that, of course, the government has to ensure that they maintain peace, at all cost. And when we see, the events of May 9th are not that far ago, in time, that they can, and of course, like Iftikhar Sahab also earlier said, that there is not, the kind of, we haven't been able to, that speedy justice, unfortunately, there are lacunas, there are a host of issues within our legal system also. At this time, when will it be that our political parties reach that kind of political maturity that we can perhaps agitate within the parliament, or we can, register the issues, whether it's inflation, whether it's other issues within the parliament, and perhaps become an effective opposition, engage with the government on these issues. And then, I keep on going back to this, that when there is, for example, budget, you go to a shadow budget, you come up with productive criticism and, perhaps suggestions, and become a part of the system.
Mahrukh, I think Jamaat-e-Islami has a track record of peaceful protests in the country. This is quite different protest, and a couple of its demands, in my opinion, are quite people-friendly and have good appeal for the people of Pakistan. The tax burden on salary class and taxes on consumers, commodities, extra taxes, super tax on salary class, and review the agreement with IPPs and inflated electricity bills. So there could be a negotiation with the government on these issues. And yes, the protest and the exploit to the land order situation could happen if other political parties, which have a history of a bit violence in their protest. 9th May we have been discussing, but this protest obviously is a different protest. I don't see, because 9th May set an example, and people understand the red line and what happened to the alleged people, and the criminal and the accused were involved in 9th May attacks, now are facing military trials and have been in jails as well. So I don't see such kind
in terms of, for engaging, for example, I mean, whether Jamaat-e-Islami is one party, and as far as, for example, PTI backed Sunni Ittihad Council, or PTI itself also now, there is, for the parties to engage within the parliament and become a part of the system. As a journalist, are we not going towards that kind of politics? Are we still moving towards, I'm not saying today's protest or tomorrow's protest is volatile or can be volatile, but the question is a larger one, right? Are we going to move towards a style of politics where the opposition also becomes a part of the system, or is it only going to be responsible for derailing the present system? What is it going to be? Because the two are different. The two are completely different when we talk about, for example, opposition around the world.
Listen, Mahrukh, look things in a broader way here. Let me to complete my argument as well. The state of Pakistan is struggling to bring investment through Special Investment Facilitation Council. It's an international platform Pakistan government set up in the past 14 years, and we are trying to engage different countries, friendly countries, to come Pakistan for the best investment. And a couple of friendly countries also gave commitment, pledges, and they started signing the agreement, and good signs were over there. number one. Secondly, Government of Pakistan announced a very exclusive sort of operation against the rising terrorism incident in the country. This announcement came out not only from the military establishment, but also obviously from the federal government as well. This is very significant announcement, and now the country wants to execute this successfully. But today, remarks by the head of the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government, by Chief Minister, I mean, it's a very worrying that he disassociated himself. He said that I, as the head of the government of the province, would not allow any operation in the province, which is facing 75% terror incident overall in the country. So such things and the discussion and the national interest, just for the sake of discussion, international dignitaries also visiting Islamabad, recently a couple of delegation also the day before yesterday and the last week, and the upcoming scheduled meetings here in the capital. So there are so many things that for the national cause, at least these opposition political parties and all stakeholders should understand and should review and rethink what exactly they're going to happen in the federal capital, in the country, unrest, chaos, and so many other things are happening domestically here. And this was perhaps the reason that one of the top friendly countries, Chinese top minister, also in a joint statement here in Pakistan, he said that Pakistan should also focus on internal instability, political instability, and many other issues as well. So it's a message.
But Zahid Saab, I'm going to come back to you to interject here. Faraz, what Zahid Saab is saying, the question is, how do you stop then this instability? Does the protesting, the way that it's been happening for the last few years, not fuel that kind of instability?
Well, Mahrukh, I think after 9th of May, unfortunately, we've been shunning every protest, keeping in mind that might not happen again. But I personally think with 9th of May, the way things were handled with muscle and with the iron fist, the protesters and the people now understand what red lines are, what they have to do and what they don't. The culprits have been punished but through military courts or through different places. I think for a normal Pakistani, for a normal person to go twice to a court and to go twice to police station is enough of an insult, and to understand the system, how it works. So the normal and common person has understood that the protest is not going to be like that. The only way that they can do is let people vent out their anger or whatever the reservations that they have, and then the government can sit down and negotiate with them. Once when you don't listen to me, and once when you don't let me speak and don't let me vent out my anger or my protest and don't let me tell you what the problem is, how would the government know? Right now, since last...
But why can't you do it in your representatives within the parliament? Can't they do it within the parliament? Can't they be an effective opposition instead of using the people as a tool to create unrest, for example?
We've seen in Punjab Assembly, the membership was suspended. PTI and the Sunni Ittihad Council members. Same has been happening in the National Assembly. The floor has not been given them properly. So I think that, and they had to go out and then protest over there as well. Umar Ayub has been, there has been PFIJ's, there was this PFIJ's press conference over there, something conference that they were doing, and Umar Ayub was not allowed over there as well. So there is a problem. The government needs to sit down as well. The government has to think and negotiate them.
But whose responsibility is it to engage with the opposition? If they don't want to, if they blatantly don't want to engage with the government, if they don't want to sit with them, which is what a certain party and their political head has always been saying, that I will not sit with you, I will not talk to you, and that is something that, and there have been overtures which have been rebuffed. We've also seen that. So what is the government?
I don't think the political party head is saying I don't want to sit with you. The political party head is Govt Khan. He is willing to sit down. We've seen Umar Ayub saying that. We've seen Asad Kaisar doing that again and again.
No, but then there is invariably conditions like, for example, they say that Mr. Khan has to be set free, which is something that, of course, the government can't do unless there's a legal system, there is a process, there are a host of cases. So, to make those kind of
demands. I think there are demands apart from this as well. There's so many other demands that the government can actually sit down and work with them.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me go to Ali with this. Ali, are you with us? Zahid Saab, there is, we talk about engaging, and this is what Faraz is saying. He's saying, why doesn't the government sit with them? Why doesn't the government meet their demands? Whether there are, all these host of other demands that can be fulfilled. In your opinion, is it about demands other than the release of, the former Prime Minister Imran Khan Saab, as far as PTI is concerned?
It's very unfortunate that Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has not been engaging other political parties since 2018, even it was in the government. They put opposition on the back burner. We witness it in the parliament. We witness all around in the country. They only just give them the title and slogan that they are thieves, they have looted the country. At that time, even though they were in the government, they were saying the opposition had looted the country. And even though now they are in the government, they are not going to engage the government. They would not. I can tell you, because the reason is clear. They first understand that they left the parliament, they dissolved assemblies without any reason, and now they're suffering, and ultimately they met their own fate in shape of 9th May. And even though right now you can check their social media profiles, their messages to people of Pakistan, by and large, their leadership again continue with the same narrative that making minds of young people, their followers, obviously they have very strong following. There might be
we talk about this, we talk about the PTI, we talk about them, but we've also seen, as far as this nominated seats case is concerned, we've seen the Election Commission go and ask at this time from the Supreme Court that there's no structure, who is going to decide, who is going to tell us, as far as political affiliation is concerned, when there's no structure that is with them. At this time, the kind of structure that is given out, whether it's in the form of, Gohar Saab, or whether it's Umar Ayub Saab, or whether it's, other people in the party, Asad Kaisar Saab, the question is, when Imran Khan comes and talks to journalists, he invariably denies all the things that are later, by him, they're later denied, the stuff that is earlier said, under his leadership. So at this time, there seems to be a, kind of a chaotic situation where we don't know what, the real, where the real chain of command is, where it's coming from, what are the instructions, what does the party stand for, what are they going to be, what if they're going to meet with them, if they're going to decide on anything, whether they have that power to do so. So what does the government do in that situation? We saw what happened between the JUIF leadership and Asad Kaisar Saab later denying that there was any such agreement had been reached. So the government itself is in a fix there, right?
Obviously, because in case government formed the committee to engage Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the leading opposition party in the parliament, but not a single meeting could happen, unfortunately. And I will see in the future, even near future. But politics is an art of possibilities. Pakistani three political parties should understand this. In the past, this PTI formed the cases against its opposition leaders, so many cases, trailblazing trials, and top accountability, unable accountability. Many opposition leaders were victim, remain victim, obviously. They use the institution against their opponent to settle their scores. And almost the similar thing is happening, even though not today, not in the past 4 months, but it was happening in the previous PDM government. And these same cases are continuing with the opposition parties, particularly with Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. But Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf as a parliamentary party, I think did not show exactly its maturity, because on very important national cause level issues like dealing with IMF, they wrote letters to IMF, they wrote letters to other international institutions which hurt the uh, country, national cause even. So it's very strange enough otherwise. But the unfortunate thing is the people of Pakistan are only suffering due to this immaturity shown by political parties on different national and critical issues. But this time, obviously, uh, anytime you can start mending all the wrong policies or the wrongdoings or whatever you can name them, they can start engaging all political parties, at least 13 parliamentary political parties in the parliament, engage in uh, stand united on national and important issues. But these protests and dharnas, I see this very premature, by the way.
To lead, and it's not going to lead the country in necessarily in the right direction, whether it's a fundamental right or not. Faraz, I'll just come back to you. Ali, I just want to understand that the PPP had earlier on said that they don't agree with stopping these protests or with these containers or anything as far as the protest is concerned, and later they decided to agree with the government. There has been a change of heart.
Well, it's not about protests. I personally feel, and even the party feels, that protests are done when you're trying to achieve a certain point, right? Say if some people are not willing to sit down with you on certain issues and they're not willing to talk to you, the government is not engaging you, they're not creating any avenues where you can come to them and sit and have a dialogue. So you might just go out on the roads and protest, try to get their attention that we are here. And so the media can see it, so the public can see it, and different state actors can see it. But if the government is ready to speak to you, they're ready to do dialogue. You are the ones who are not willing to talk, not willing to be, wanting to be part of the problem, not part of the solution. And yet you just keep going. I mean, we're willing, as a government, we're willing to sit down with them and ask them, what is it that you want? Let's talk about it. Let's come, build consensus. Let's sit down for the country and let's work it out. But if you don't want to talk, what kind of political party or parties are these? They don't want to talk. They don't want to have any dialogue, but they want to keep going out on the road, blocking the roads, disturbing traffic, disturbing, the public, destroy public property, state property, and, the kind of stuff they've done in the past. So it's a question mark. The intentions, are they genuine? Are they genuinely wanting to make a difference? Are they genuinely feeling it's inflation? Are they genuinely wanting something? If they're really wanting something, then there are better ways to, address those issues as opposed to protesting. What will that get? What will that achieve? Nothing.
Ji, Faraz, your comments, unfortunately I'm running out of time, but you heard what Ali also said, and Zahid Saab in some detail. When you come to a situation where we are at this time, what option is there really?
First of all, government has to start with the baby steps. Let's just talk about the reserved seats. Let's say there was a confusion, the election commission did its part. Now there's a clear-cut ruling from the Supreme Court. Let them have their seats. Start with them. Start building the trust. That is, give them their committees that they are entitled to.
But election commission is the one that is written to the Supreme Court asking them, how do they ascertain which members are PTI members when there's no structure. So, there are real issues here. There are real lacunas.
Mahrukh,
there are real problems.
I think well, yeah, if you want to take out something out of a loophole from the law, you can always go with that. But we're talking about a consensus that we need to build, a trust that we need to build right now. And the
You're saying
first
that we
step,
should go, the government should go above and beyond in trying to restore some sort of a trust.
I think they need to take steps if they want to rule for next 5 years.
Right, fair enough. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Faraz Ali Khan, thank you for joining us. Iftikhar Ahmed Saab, thank you for being with us. Zahid Gishkori, thank you for joining us today. Ali, Rashid, thank you for your time. Overall, as far as the situation stands at this time, as far as the government is concerned, they are, of course, not only empowered but also under an obligation to ensure that ensure safety, ensure that there is overall law and order is maintained. And with the events, of course, we've seen what happened on May 9th. With those events in the background, the government also, feels that their hands are tied, and their right to peaceful assembly, right to protest, those democratic principles are not under dispute. And of course, those are the rights of every citizen. And the government is, of course, trying to ensure that those obligations, those rights are maintained. But in a country where we are, of course, dealing with those and the balance of it, with maintaining law and order, with ensuring that the business of every day continues, and is where the challenge comes. And of course, the options are always limited. Not that there is this resolve to ensure that there is overall peace, and the inconvenience that of course invariably comes with stopping traffic, with dealing with emergencies. All of that is also something that has to be ensured with the condition. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.